What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 20 of the HTC podcast, where we pack 15 days worth of content into just 1 hour. And today we got with us a special guest, or special returning guest, our favorite, I guess our favorite guest, Shane, with us back again. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you guys?
What's up?
Good.
Welcome back.
Yep.
Thanks,
And you guys know
for having me
the
back.
usual crew. We got Ron and we got Jeff here hanging out.
Yo, what up?
How you guys doing?
What's
Doing
up?
good.
What's up?
It's been a good
Doing
weekend
good.
so far.
Yep.
Staying in the house.
Ooh.
Like you should
All right.
be.
Yep,
Wearing your mask, keep your hands clean.
Yep.
exactly. Corona ain't
Before
no
we start
joke.
Yep. And before we start real quick, let's give a real quick shout out to Anchor every week, always helping us out, holding it down for us. I
Facts.
already got a shot, so I'm a little bit leery here.
Man, this man's drinking in space.
You know how I'm
Space
breathing,
drinking. There
Yeah.
we go. Hey, it's still 4th of July weekend. You gotta get a little
Oh
loose.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
All
was you
week.
guys 4th of July? Lots of fireworks?
Too many fireworks.
Too many?
Yeah.
Until like
Too
2
many.
a.m. I'm hearing like fireworks. Yeah.
Bro,
Those are-
heck yeah.
Freaking war zone over here.
Dang, for reals.
Mhm.
Yep. I was like, damn, y'all don't gotta go to sleep. Y'all don't gotta go to jobs tomorrow. I was like, oh, tomorrow's Sunday.
It's Sunday, yeah. People are acting out.
Yeah. I was like, all right, cool, whatever, man.
Is
You
it
do
a 4-day
you.
weekend for some people too?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially.
people get-
Yep.
And
So
for some, it's a forever.
forever weekend for the
Hey,
summer at least.
Hey.
I like to call it
Oh,
staycation and fun
Yeah.
employment.
Yeah. Fun employment.
Yep, the best. So
Oh man.
wild 2020, man.
All right.
Yep. No, it's been good though.
So
It's been good.
let's jump straight to the topic. And so first time we had Shane on the podcast, you were the first person to ever bring up like Star Wars and kind of that kind of news, since we always stuck to gaming and anime. So this week, before we start going into Last of Us, I want to talk a little bit of Star Wars news. I don't know if you guys been keeping up with Star Wars lately, but there is some new news that they are gonna take the what is this? What would you call this sequel? This is the sequel trilogy, is what they call it,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah,
The new one.
I heard a little bit about
Yep.
it.
That they're probably gonna be scrapping it and making the whole thing non-canon.
Hallelujah, Jesus.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Episode 7, 8, and 9?
Yeah.
Yes, they are gonna be
Rumors
taking it.
floating
And,
around.
yes, and it's I don't know if it's gonna be true. I
What?
think it is true. I saw some videos about it, and
It's from
I thought
the-
it was super interesting.
It's
Yeah,
from the
so what do you guys
dude who
think about that?
predicted a lot of the Last Skywalker.
Mhm.
Whatever the last movie was called, Rise of the Skywalker. He predicted pretty much most of the movie, so it's from the sources from the same dude. So he was pretty accurate in the past. So I don't see why not. This is something they would do. I mean, the fans have been asking for this. I mean, they see the numbers. I'm pretty sure their money has been going down every movie. That's why they're kind of trying to reboot it again.
The first movie made $2 billion, and then the last one, the
Oh,
newest
yeah.
one, made only $1 billion. So
And I'm
they
pretty sure we could all.
lost huge profit.
Oh, that's a huge fail. Yeah, I'm sure we could all
Mhm.
agree that the first movie of the trilogy was pretty decent. Kind of
Definitely, yeah.
very safe.
Love the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
first
the
very
next
fun.
two was just like a train wreck after another, for the most
Oh my
part.
God.
Especially
I
Last Jedi, in my opinion.
yeah, Last Jedi was rough. I 100% agree. But the episode 9 it had promise, but like it's just trying to fix kind of what was left behind because of Last Jedi. It's like
Mhm. Yep.
they were already going into a dire situation. I didn't
Yeah.
hate it, but
Yep.
7 out of 10.
This is what happens when you
Yeah,
have a
that's
different
how I feel too.
director. You have like a different director every movie. At least with the
Exactly.
original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, they're all by George Lucas and had some sort of vision. But when you have like two different directors, bouncing back and forth, it's a little bit
Mhm.
conflicting.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting is the first of the new trilogy. George Lucas already did not like the way the whole style of everything
Oh
of
yeah,
that movie.
yeah. He never
So it was
likes any of the
already,
new stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was already bad. So if he didn't like it, the fans are gonna revolt too, because they want his style of direction.
Right.
That and then when he directs a movie, they're still mad at him. So I don't know.
Yeah.
The fandom's never
I would say
happy.
it neither way, yeah.
The public
I'm
is mad at
saying-
everybody.
But now they're
Prequels,
kind
they
of
were
begging
really
him
good
back.
deal.
It wasn't this bad
At
before.
least the prequel was better than the sequel, in my
I know,
opinion.
it's just kind of weird. Like I liked
Mhm.
Revenge of the
Yeah.
Sith. Was out
Yeah,
of that.
Revenge of the Sith was
good.
great.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean,
And So they're thinking about getting rid of that, and the guy who directed The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau.
Oh,
Is that his name?
John Favreau and
Yeah.
Filoni.
So if they, wipe away this this trilogy, they're thinking about hiring him on to do the next, the legit trilogy, I guess. I don't know.
Bro,
What
we're
do you
getting
guys think
into
about him
Sounds
doing that?
good. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Mandalorian was pretty solid.
Right.
We're
Possibly-
getting into
Possibly better than what we had in the movies, to be honest.
yeah, we're getting into like a like a Evangelion situation.
Yeah,
or
we're trying to
Evangelion
rebuild.
situation.
I mean, and we're
It's
going to
like
Last
the
of Us.
rebuild.
We're going to Last of Us Part 2 as well. I'm hoping there's
Yeah.
petitions that they want to. People were hoping that they would pull a Mass Effect 3 for Last of
Yeah.
Us as well and try to change the ending and stuff like that. So,
Right.
so this I
Yeah.
see where the theme is going here. We're trying to rebuild everything.
Mhm.
No.
There
And
you
it's
go.
crazy because I mean, hey, if sticking to the Star Wars stuff,
hmm
if they reboot this basically series and they go, yeah, episode 7, 8, 9, they're not canon, like that's huge.
That
And
they've
you
never
have-
done that for
they've-
the films, at least.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
insane.
true.
Yeah.
Not so much.
And not that soon. That's the thing. When we see
Yeah.
reboots, basically it's like about a 10-year gap or something like that. Or after like 5 movies, they're like, all right, cool, we're gonna reboot it. Because after
Yeah.
5 movies, it's usually like 10 years or so.
Mhm.
But to reboot it as soon as everything comes out, like Shane said, episode 7, I thought it was playing it safe. It was a copy and paste of New Hope.
Yeah.
Episode 8, I hated it. It was garbage. People try to like say, "Oh, it was great." I was like, "No,
tried to be-
it was terrible."
It tried to
It
be
was terrible.
divisive for the sake of being divisive, just like Last of Us
Right.
Part 2. I mean, when we get to that, but like, that's my
Mhm.
perfect. I think that's the perfect comparison. If you're gonna,
Mhm.
if we're talking about Star Wars and Last of Us, both Last of Us Part 2 and Episode 8 of Star Wars were very like the same mindset of what they were going for. They were both hated
Yeah.
by fans, but they were loved by critics. So it was
Mhm.
it's totally polarizing.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It was just like with episode 8, I think they were trying to, step out of the comfort zone and do something different, which I don't mind if you try to do something different, but if the writing's not there, literally, that's a train wreck. And if people say literally episode 8, oh, you hate it because everybody else, no, I hate it because it's bad writing, it's garbage, like the pacing's terrible, and it's ugh. And then episode 9,
Oh, yeah,
like
flying
Shane,
around in space. No. What
Yeah.
is going on?
Yeah. and then like Shane was
It's so
saying with
awkward.
episode 9 was not a sequel. It was basically, hey, let me fix all the things wrong with episode 8 kind of thing. So it's like
Yeah.
it was a patch notes
Yeah.
for episode 8.
It was a patch.
Yeah,
note. It was a day one patch.
Yeah. It spent all the time trying to fix all the problems that it didn't
Yeah.
tell its own story kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. So
Yeah.
They
Like, by
tried
the
to
time
go.
I feel like it had its footing. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, we're at the 3-hour mark. I guess we got to wrap it up. Okay, the
Yeah.
end.
Yep, exactly.
Mhm.
I felt
So-
like episode 8 was like another like starting of another trilogy of its own thing. Like it didn't. They don't have
It
any
did feel like
correlate.
that.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
coherency between that trilogy.
Yeah.
There was
that's true.
nothing that like it was just a different like fan fiction movie every time.
Yeah. And it
Well,
didn't
they
mesh
kept
well
swapping
together.
up the directors too. That's why.
Yep,
'Cause I
yeah, two
think
different
first-
directors and
Yeah, they had 2 different directors, so they had their own visions. So that's why the
Yeah.
stories were always so mismatched.
Yeah.
And I can kind of see there be some groundings for this, just because one in Star Wars Rebels, kind of a spoiler, Star Wars Rebels, they start
Mhm.
talking about time
We're doing
travel.
spoilers all day today, man.
All right.
spoiler cast.
Towards the end of Star Wars Rebels, they or season 2, I believe, going to season 3, they start talking about time travel. And basically that's kind of what Palpatine was. His essentially goal was to essentially find a certain Jedi temple, and to find kind of like the Nether Realm, kind of is like where Jedi essentially not die, but just kind of where their essence goes, and it connects everything, because the Force, as we know, binds everything. So Ezra, who is a Jedi Padawan, enters this realm that Palpatine's trying to find, and that connects everything. It connects all the way to episode 1. Like he starts hearing voices. He hears voices from episode 9, episode 1, episode 4. So it's showing that from this focal point, everything is connected.
Yeah.
So I can easily see them doing something where, Palpatine had another clone and he resets the timeline or something.
Bro, yeah.
So I can see
I've heard
some type of
That would be cool.
connection there.
That's
I've
like
heard that theory
um,
too.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
sloppy writing a little bit, but it's what else are you gonna do it besides time
You always fall
travel?
back to time
Besides
travel.
waking,
Hey,
yeah,
what do you
waking up
want,
to a
bro?
dream, another
Hey,
dimension, another timeline, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
bro, it's the
Very
Thanos
true.
That'd be
snap,
cool.
not only the Marvel universe. it's
yeah,
the
yeah.
Star Wars
So-
universe.
Palpatine bought the
Jeez.
Thanos, the series,
Oh,
Literally.
that new
I could
trilogy.
easily see that. Especially because like the High Republic stuff, I think I talked about that like the first time I was on the show,
Mhm.
which is a reboot of the Old Republic. That was supposed to start end of summer. It was supposed to be a new book, comic, possibly a video game. It was basically the next era of Star Wars, a reboot of the Old Republic. They just announced, I think, a couple weeks ago, the High Republic is now delayed until next year, and they had this whole timeline like laid out. Why would you stop and delay this whole prequel era of Star Wars for essentially a whole year? So something is going to happen, or something's about to get announced. They released like the first chapter, so people can like read it and like, okay, well here's something to wet your whistle. But they delayed it like by a year, so I think something's getting ready to get announced.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because you don't really need to, like, I know COVID's delaying things, but you're writing a book. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really need to delay something for a year if it's nothing but a series of books and comics. Like, these people are working from home.
Yeah.
So something's getting ready to be announced. I think
Yeah,
it's
when
going to shake
is that the
Star
animated
Wars lore.
series? At least they could.
Uh,
No, you're
I'm sorry,
Rebels.
what was
Was that the? Were we talking about the animated series
Rebels,
again?
yeah.
Rebels. Yeah. I thought that was interesting too, because with live action film you have to be on location, but I guess with
Right.
animation you can still record at home. You do have a lot
Exactly.
of like Zoom calls, whatever they do, and like direct the voice actors to record certain lines. So that's
Yeah.
one good thing about animation.
Yeah.
But then again, you have to think of it from their perspective. All these people are used to going to one location and
Mhm.
having all the mics and stuff set up.
I'm
Having
sure
them
it's
do it at
better.
home.
I'm sure it's way
Yeah.
better to yeah. They probably had a team to retrofit like something in their
Mhm.
house if they have room.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's way better to go to a
One-time podcast,
studio.
but I'm just doing it in person with you guys, so just imagine how hard it is for a
Yeah,
big
exactly.
company. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, now we
Yeah,
just have to set
true.
them all up. Yeah, there's a lot of
Mhm.
work that goes into behind the scenes when you're setting up a podcast, with your audio levels, your sound, the ambient noise in your room, or
Mhm.
whatever. There's so much stuff you have to fool around with. So, and the COVID has kind of shown like a lot of these actors don't know how to be like a YouTuber. They the traditional actors, they have production guys that do
They have
all this stuff for
directors,
them,
yeah, they have
and
they
directors
have
to
directors
make
and
them look
producers
good.
that are helping them. Yeah, exactly. They don't have to worry about all that.
Yeah, so
Yep.
really appreciate
Very
that
true.
type of production that you could do your
Yep.
own. So I thought that was
For sure.
interesting.
But yeah, is there any other news on that Star Wars stuff? Was there anything else for the leak? Or was that pretty much it?
That was really the main thing.
Okay.
It was just
Cool.
about the wiping of that trilogy and possibly going into the new one with that new director.
And let's segue
Yeah.
in, I suppose, to wiping The
Yeah.
Last of Us Part 2.
Oh my God.
50
know
minutes
about
of
that,
Star
but-
Wars. Man.
Yeah.
You already know my opinion. I'm about to go
Yeah.
hard in on this game a little bit. But
All
yeah,
right. Yep. So
Let's jump right into the story then.
yeah, we're getting into this. Is the Last of Us 2 spoiler cast. So if you guys don't want to
Mhm.
listen, click away. Yeah. So
I would just say
This-
listen because the story is no good anyways. To be honest.
Oh my goodness.
all right. So
I don't think
my
it's terrible.
all right. So who wants
Okay.
to go first on
Alright.
The Last of
You
Us?
you guys go
2?
first. You guys go first.
Okay, I'm gonna put a disclaimer. I did not beat the game. I only played like 25 hours of it or so, and just honestly, the gameplay. I loved the game in the beginning, but the gameplay kind of just burned me out. You
Bro,
know.
you beat the game. You beat the game. Not gonna lie.
I guess, but
that last.
You're
that
not
last
missing
part
too much
was there.
besides
Yeah.
like
I was
decent
just
gameplay.
dragging- That ending reminded me kind of like of the Red Dead Redemption 2 ending when you started doing the whole farming and all that stuff at
Dude,
the
I
end.
stopped at the prologue on
Yeah,
Red
the
Dead.
prologue.
Yeah,
that's
I
right.
just
And I
stopped.
started just like,
That was
oh,
way
this is
too much.
dragging. Yep.
Yeah.
And I was feeling I was in
The
that
epilogue,
same
epilogue, whatever it
situation.
was.
The epilogue or whatever. But I don't know. The
Ooh.
story. You guys go ahead. I need to think about what I want to say about the story too. 'cause
Ron,
there's
Shane,
a
you
lot.
guys go.
I'll let Ron go. I think we should do
Alright.
good, bad,
Okay.
good, or
Okay,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Let's
yeah.
do it. Let's be structured.
So-
Okay.
Hold all comments until after I finish this. I'm gonna go down my list
I'm gonna
of
mute
stuff that I like.
Oh, dear.
So Last of Us 2, as far as it goes, it does not deserve a 0 and all that stuff that people are putting on Metacritic, all the user reviews. It doesn't deserve a 0. But on the flip side, it doesn't deserve a 10 because it's not a 10 out of 10 game. All these critics are like, I mean, everybody has their own opinion. My opinion is not 10 out of 10. At first, I said it was an 8. I brought it down to a 7.5 after looking up other reviews. They had valid points. So I'm going to start by saying Last of Us 2, I say it's 7.5 out of 10 for these reasons. The stuff I liked about the game, they improved a lot of the stuff. The gameplay was fun. I had the most fun. I love playing like stealthily. So I love the bow. I love the silenced pistol, and I love the silenced SMG. And the silenced SMG you get later on in the game, but a little earlier on you can play with the pistol. And I love just going around and just getting sneak kills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Scenery was beautiful. It was great. I loved the atmosphere. I loved how Seattle was portrayed. Even when you're getting to the later game, they talk about this place, the island, and I'm like, what island? There's no islands in Washington. Then you see the Space Needle, and you're like, wait, hold on. There was, if you visited Seattle, Seattle is not.
I visited before, yeah.
It's kind of like an island, but you don't.
But there's no separate island for the Space Needle, which is kind of weird.
Yeah,
unless like something happened, like earthquake or something.
There's a bay and stuff that separates Seattle from like Bremerton. Bremerton is across the bay, but literally they said, "Oh yeah, on the island," and from what we were told, like this was taking place in Seattle, and it never had a separation from the Space Needle, which was super weird. Everything is landlocked onto.
I don't think they explained why it was an island.
They didn't. So
a lot of loopholes.
It was interesting to see Seattle painted in that way. So I was like, okay, that's cool. The jump scares, I don't like jump scares. They terrify me, but this game was great at that. Like we mentioned a couple weeks ago, be ready because you're not safe anywhere. Jeff kind of not spoiled it, but he kind of talked about it. He was like, when you go to that place where you're working on the workbench, all of a sudden some people are coming to attack you.
That did scare me. That was the scariest jump scare for me.
Really jumped out on my chest when that happened the first time. I was like, oh god, I really dropped my controller.
Yeah,
that caught me off guard, and I was like, okay, cool. I see how this is going. That's awesome.
Gets you on your toes.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're like, okay, cool. I'm gonna finish up crafting this stuff. I'm safe. Then all of a sudden, boom, nope, out of nowhere, bam. And then there was another scene where, dude, all of a sudden this clicker just comes out of nowhere. Like you think you expect it, but then it doesn't come. And then all of a sudden you kind of let your guard down. You're like, oh, okay, cool. It was supposed to happen there, but it didn't. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like a clicker comes out. That's when I was like, okay, cool. They're throwing off the timing on. Oh, you think you can predict when these clickers are going to pop out of nowhere? Nope. Yeah. So that was the cool part. The one thing I did like about the story, instead of the zombies being, or not the zombies, the infected, sorry, being the scariest part of the game, in this game, I thought the theme was humanity was the scariest thing, a part of the game. Yeah. Because it was literally you battling with a religious cult and these other people, which you come to find out they're like a military group that have taken over Seattle, and they're basically
Wolf.
The
Wolves.
Yep.
Wolves. They're kind of like a
Washington Liberation
Walking
Front.
Dead throwback a little bit.
Yeah, so basically they're like a militia that has kind of a group of survivors that have basically taken over and taken the streets for themselves, and they're fighting against, it's basically a turf war against this religious
the Seraphites, the religious.
The Seraphites. Yeah. Yep. So that was, those people scared me more than the clickers and stuff. I mean, they have new enemies and stuff like that, but there were no, I think I got scared more of the people rather than the enemies, because I was like,
they were definitely a bit more challenging to fight because they sneak up on you. They have dogs to fight you and stuff like that.
I actually love fighting the dogs with the people, especially if you.
Bro, that was I felt sad killing the dogs
at the same time. Dude, who cares?
Well, only at the beginning, but later on, you don't feel sad for the people, and that was my problem with the gameplay. Was it was effective at first when people call out each other's names, like, "No, Mia, you killed her."
Drowned out.
Like they have a family.
But then it's just like a joke later. It's like, come on, we're just killing machines at this point.
Ripping out the guts out on freaking nooses. Like, what the hell? You're gonna freaking want to fight back. You don't
Yeah.
want to just sit there.
I think we all agree though the gameplay is pretty decent, even though it's a little
Mhm.
dated after 7 years compared to the first game.
It's repetitive.
That's
I wish
not.
there was a
It
little
is
bit more
repetitive. The
to it.
pacing is
I got
terrible.
bored.
Exactly. I felt like near the end, I was like, "Is it over yet?" Like I'm uninterested now, and that's the problem with story pacing. Because at first you're like, "I want this revenge on Joel," and then you driving factor, and then they introduce you all these new characters that they don't develop very well. They give them unfair deaths that they're like pointless deaths, like shock factor deaths. So pretty much like you could tell that they were gonna have a death like that. I'm not even surprised because you didn't develop the character to make you even care about them. So why would I care that they got a death like that? Because at least in Last of Us 1, everyone's death was powerful and impactful. In this game, death is like meaningless. Like maybe he's trying to go for that, like numbing you to the point where death is kind of like an everyday thing in this world. But I don't know. I'll let Shane like put his opinions because when I start talking about this game, I have like a list. I kind of want to just bring up first, and then whatever you guys want to talk about. Yeah, this game had too many problems, and it just outside of the story and even the development, even like everything. There's just way too much to talk about in this game.
All right. So that was my list of likes. The only other thing I had on the like list, it was the idea that this game challenged me to empathize with a person I didn't care about. And I like that approach. I did because you don't really see that kind of thing too often in games. So that's the thing I did like. But that's my likes and my list. I'll let Shane go or whoever
Shane,
else wants to
go.
go.
I want to bring up something about what you said about the whole empathy thing real quick. You it's interesting that you bring up the empathy thing because you're talking about Abby, right? The main villain of the game. Obviously, she's the one that kills Joel. Well, spoiler alert. She kills him, and obviously, of course, you want to feel like you hate her so bad. But when you're speaking about empathy and you're playing as her, and it shows the cycle of the whole game from the first game, the cycle of Joel losing his daughter. And then the cycle of Ellie, obviously she doesn't have a father figure. It was Joel. So she was in that cycle, and then now Abby, and they're all kind of like, even though they're all against each other, they have that familiarity, and they can't empathize with each other. And I think that's kind of what happened at the end of the game, where people are mad. Oh, why didn't Ellie kill her? Well, maybe she, in a way, understands. Even if
it's all about empathy, but I could see that the direction was unique, and it was a pretty good idea. It just wasn't executed properly, in my opinion. Because how are we supposed to relate to a character like Abby when she's literally kind of like a psycho? I mean, she's kind of like two-faced a little bit. I mean, we see a side of her that is compassionate and wants to, let's say, redeem herself, like a redemption story. And to me, she's very similar to Joel. She's like the female version of Joel, just not as good. Because we had a whole game
I heard that they relate to Joel. They're gonna use her and what's the little kid that goes around with Abby?
Lev.
Lev. So they're thinking of making, like, if they do make the next game, this would be about her training.
They gotta cancel that right away.
Because like you said, well, I don't know, but that's what I heard. Because before this whole thing, that was like the leak for the next.
There's no characters left. They kind of ended Ellie's story at this point where I don't know what you can write for her anymore. I mean, this is spoiler cast. Literally, they ended her story at the point where it's just sad. We broke up the relationship between you and Joel. We false advertised that this is about Joel and Ellie. This is about their story. This is so much sad.
Shane talk about.
Let's let Shane
talk about his likes before we start ripping it apart. We'll each take turns ripping it apart. That's fine.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
Okay, let's go.
Go ahead, Shane.
Go for it.
I kind of. This is how I rated it. So I kind of just went off of just how I felt right when I beat the game. So my personal opinion, gameplay was 10 out of 10. I love the gameplay. I had no problems with the first game's gameplay. I felt this improved. I mean, it didn't do too much different, but it definitely improved on the issues I had, if there were any in the first one. Especially just the melee kills in this one were like amazing. I barely used my gun. I was just melee killing people.
Absolutely brutal. Melee,
like jumping off, a ledge and just stabbing somebody while jumping off a ledge, stuff like that is
satisfying.
Like the gameplay was just so satisfying. Sound design, which is a big thing for me in video games, more than even just art, like visuals. Sound design was 10 out of 10 from the ambience, the voice acting, audio, like the nature backgrounds, everything about this game was fantastic in terms of the audio. Graphics, obviously 10 out of 10. Story 6.8 out of 10. So doing an average 91%. So A minus is how I personally gave the game. A minus 89%. Like I don't think it's game of the year. It's not going to get game of the year. I think the first game is way better. The game definitely stumbled, in my personal opinion. Kind of the last, I'd say, like 4 or 5 hours when you're playing, playing as Abby. I think everything
5 hours too long for sure.
Yes, everything to the point where we're playing as Abby was like game of the year to me. I was like, dude, I don't see the problem. As soon as you start playing as Abby, it's like
slog.
Like as soon as like she goes back and gets the kids, that's when the game dragged down to me.
It just wasn't interesting. I mean,
no,
it doesn't help to the fact that we don't really exactly. Yeah. That's the problem with character development. It wasn't proper character development for us to care enough. Where every character we cared about pretty much in Last of Us 1,
yeah, like even my wife agreed. Like she's watching me play the game from start to finish. When she left the kids at that trailer, picking back up from there, it should have been DLC. Like if you want to see what happens to the
when
kids,
they go to the island, that was too extra. That was too extra.
Exactly, all of that should have been DLC. Like, hey, what did Abby do? When she woke up from her nightmare, find out. $10, like basically those Left Behind type thing.
Yeah.
You want to find out what Abby did? $10. Here you go. Here's 5.
Honestly, I'd rather they cut it off where it ended, where Ellie and Dina were in the house
in
together,
the shed, right?
And then just don't add any of the other extra stuff, and just they should have used that development time to make a multiplayer, because the multiplayer fractions was pretty good. Like I'm disappointed that there wasn't a multiplayer, because I'm not going to play that single player experience again. I wouldn't like. I don't think many people would want to replay that again, especially at least to the part where you don't want to play Abby again.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's like I'll come back to this.
Exactly.
So let's get into the dislikes now, and we'll go one by one. We'll kind of like moderate, and we'll take turns going. Okay. And so Jeff is already on the cuff. He's foaming at the mouth. We'll let Jeff go. So Jeff,
all right, I'll try to. Well,
do you want to talk about your likes about the game? Do you
I'll talk about a little bit of the likes. Like, okay. I don't want to sound like a broken record. I agree with all the likes. Yeah. I agree with all the likes you guys said. I won't restate it, but I definitely don't want to discredit the hard work that the developers did to this game, because it's totally like attention to detail. They put a lot of love into the sound design. The Foley artists did a great job. The cinematography, the graphics. Everything was this world felt very believable, despite the AI being a little stupid and taking me out of the game. But other than that, like I don't fault it by that. I think the gameplay for me, I know some people have problems with the original game being too clunky. Last of Us 1 and Part 2 didn't do too much to fix that, and I kind of agree with that. But I didn't have a problem. For me though, I'm one of the ones that enjoyed the gameplay, because I didn't care if it innovated much. It would have been nice if they did add more gameplay elements, but they did like kind of a subtle, just added like proning and crouching and things like that. And the stealth gameplay was a lot more impactful. Definitely a Metal Gear Solid feel, and I'll get to that in a moment with stuff like, let's say, I'll just put a list of what I didn't like about it, just a short thing, and we could discuss anything that sounds, let's see. I have a list where the game is criticized for false advertising players, because in the advertisement they had Joel and Ellie looking like they're actually traveling together and spending time with each other, where they did the character swap with Jesse. Jesse was actually the one exploring with Ellie. In the original advertisement of the game, it was supposed to be Joel. So the character swap was a thing. Supposedly, Neil said it was reminiscent to Metal Gear Solid's 2 marketing campaign, where we thought we were all going to play Solid Snake, but we ended up playing Raiden throughout the whole game. But in turn...
Wait, hold on. I understand you break that up, because that to me is more reflective of Raiden being switched out, or Snake being switched out for Raiden, as Abby is being switched out as one of the main characters. She's being added. And that was to me, is the biggest bait and switch. Nobody was expecting to play as her.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Abby.
Right
that's true. I agree with that. Definitely. So that's total false advertising. We don't see anything about Abby in the trailers.
Yeah.
Nothing. And she's like more than half of the game. Like she's like about half of the game at least. And one of the things is I felt that they were total abandonment of the characters. And even though they said we're going to be very careful about how we love these characters just as much as you, we're going to be careful. Well, why did you give Joel such a meaningless death? And it wasn't very believable, because Joel, he's been surviving over 20 years in this post-apocalyptic world since his daughter died. He's been so careful. He literally trusts a stranger out of nowhere and like says his name, saves them and everything, and and goes to their camp with no like worry, like, oh yeah, that's cool, we're going to your crib, yeah, what's up, like, and then it's just the way he died just did not seem believable. Also, with Ellie becoming a character who is likable in the first game, she slowly becomes very unlikable in this game because of how cruel she is. I get it, it's the vengeance thing, and they were trying to make her out to be a villain by the end of the game, and it didn't work. Like the scene where you are Abby and you're having to fight her as the last character, I did not like that. It would have worked if you wrote the story a bit better to care about the situation, and if you made Abby more relatable. But obviously most people don't find her relatable. What other issues we have? Developers even didn't like the game. A lot of them quit over the project. The threats of withheld pay. There's just so much going on with this game. We have poor pacing of the story we mentioned earlier. The game feels like filler, as Shane said. DLC
Abby's character being threatened or something.
Oh yeah. That's definitely one of the ones I want to get to. I think the ending drags on. We already kind of said all this stuff. Ellie's relationship with Joel torn apart. The final fight was a poor excuse of a Metal Gear Solid 1 final battle with like Ocelot. It was too much. Like he definitely took some Metal Gear aspects, but did it poorly. Like Kojima, you could tell he's a Kojima fanboy, like Neil Druckmann. But yeah, let's get back to the death threats, which is important because it's terrible. Like, I do not condone any of that. I think it's stupid that people hated Abby so much that they over this past weekend, there's death threats on Neil Druckmann and Laura Bailey. And Laura Bailey is the one who voiced Abby. And then, definitely you can see how the hate is for this game. What are you guys' thoughts?
So with that one, let me put it to you this way. If you are hating a real person for the actions of a fake person, go get some help.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
I'm not.
That's Abby levels of psycho. If you think Abby's psycho, you're being Abby right now. Like,
you
attacking voice actors.
You're taking that to the next level. Like, if you hate, like, no, you shouldn't be threatening. Don't go out there and threaten real life people for the characters that they portray. That is not cool. That's not right. They don't warrant that. Even though you hate the character,
she did a great job with Abby. To be regardless, even if we don't like her, she did a great job of being a hate.
That's what actors do. That's what good actors do.
That's just proof that she did a good job at it. Yeah.
Like that lady, I'll give you an example. The lady that plays Dolores Umbridge in Harry Potter. Absolutely hate that character, but you don't see me going out and literally, threatening her life and stuff like that. Leave it at the character. If you don't, it's all right if you don't like the game. It's all right if you don't like the character. Do not send death threats to these people. Literally.
I don't understand the differentiation between art and the artist. That's the main problem I feel like in today's society. Like, you can't, just because somebody did something bad, you can't appreciate them for what they are. There's a lot of bad people in our history that have done terrible things, but we appreciate their art, but we don't see them as a good person, So
you just gotta like it for what it is. I mean, don't attack them personally on a personal level.
Especially Neil. Like, I just saw Neil's death threats like right when I got off work today, and I'm like, are you serious? Like, okay, you don't like the game, you didn't like his vision, but it's art. Like, it's his vision. This was his project. Like, there's paintings I don't like, but other people like it. I think it looks terrible, but I'm not gonna belittle them or threaten them because I don't personally like it. It's like, okay, to each their own.
Well, he did mention. I think he mentioned in a tweet that he's saying it's a lot of people who are xenophobic or homophobic,
there's some
or like anti, like, or misogynistic, whatever. And I kind of wanted to touch about that too. Like, I'm all for representation in general, if it's in like movies or video games, but I don't think the representation. Actually, it's a fact that even the LGBT community did not like the representation in the game. So when you pander to an audience and you think you're gonna, get acceptance from them, I mean, first of all, all I know of Neil is he doesn't look like he's either LGBT. He doesn't look like he's either Asian too, because he did do Asian representation in this game, which I appreciate, but I don't think he did those characters full justice because, for one, he's not Asian, and two, he's not LGBT, so you can't fully relate. So I get it. I commend his efforts for trying, but people from the Asian community and the LGBT community did not appreciate their representation in this game. Because you look at Jesse, you look at Lev, they're not like the greatest characters that we really loved, really, to be honest. I know they tried to do like a Joel and Ellie with Abby and Lev, but it did not hit as hard at all. I mean, it had its moments that was pretty wholesome, but it was just like a poor excuse to try to replicate that type of relationship. And then, and I felt like this game is advertised for for the sake of representation, and I felt like it ruined the art a little bit because they tried so hard to represent these minority groups, and it just like kind of fell flat. It felt a little bit half-assed, like it wasn't fully thought out, in my opinion.
That's where I'll disagree with you.
Yeah,
because
same.
I don't think they were out for the representation. I just think they happened to write these characters in the story.
But he said it himself. Neo said he had a not so secret agenda. He had a press conference saying that, women tropes and video games and things like that. So he's not hiding it. He wasn't hiding it. And even the LGBT community wasn't appreciating the thing called dead naming, is what they call. Remember, Lev's real name is Lily, because Lev is trans. So Lily is actually a girl, was supposed to be a wife to the religious cult, arranged marriage, but she shaved her head to become a man because that's how she identified. That's how she saw herself. But the LGBT community didn't find that very, they felt that was kind of very offensive because they were using the dead naming, her old name, his name. We'll say his.
Though. That's the thing. I don't know.
And they didn't like that all the LGBT characters were all just angry. They wanted more happy characters. I get it why there was angry characters, but they didn't like that representation. You're trying to say all of us trans or lesbian characters were just all angry women. Yeah, because it made this.
And Ellie, well, I guess Ellie's a little angry.
Ellie turned totally angry. She totally angry.
Cool. She's actually really motherly and chill. She doesn't.
Yeah. Her soft side, yes, but majority of the game, 90% of the time, she's just killing people. It kind of overrides her motherliness when
the game, though.
You abandon your family to go for revenge again.
You're supposed to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's you would do the same if you were in that situation.
Yeah.
I at that point, revenge, the way she did it, where she should have just ended it off, where let it go. I'll sympathize for Abby here. She let Ellie live twice. Let it go. Let bygones be bygones. Now you killed some of her friends. She killed Joel, but at this point, hey, you're with Dina. This should be your happiness now. Put it to rest. Let bygones be bygones, but they just wanted to tell that extra story that felt like DLC, like what Shane said.
Yeah.
But that's go ahead, Ron.
So I think if Neil said that, I didn't see any video of him saying that specifically.
It's out there.
But, I'm probably wrong on that. But to me, from my perspective, it was the bad writing and the bad pacing that ruined the game because, like I was mentioning earlier, it seemed like these characters were literally written into a story, and they happen to be, part of the LGBTQ community. Yeah. They happen to be Asian, things like that. But the writing was terrible, and the pacing was terrible. So it came off to me like that's what ruined it. It wasn't because they were pandering, because I was trying to look for that when the pandering, because there's even a part in the game where Lev goes, "Oh, you heard them call my name. Did you want to talk about it?" Then Abby goes, "Not if you don't want to talk about it." And they leave it at that.
And that's bad writing. That's 100% bad writing.
There was a lot of times where weird stuff like that happened. I agree.
Awkward lines, just awkward line direction.
Yeah. That's the thing. The writing, the bad writing led to awkward moments.
Right.
The other part was when Abby was with Owen, and it created that scene that got leaked out, and people were like, "Oh, Abby's trans, blah blah blah." No, she's just muscular. She's a muscular female.
Yeah, that's what people were thinking. Yeah, I thought that at first too. That's why I was thinking that's why she related so much to Lev, because she's a bit, I don't know, trans herself, but it never confirmed. There's too many plot holes. They let the community decide.
I thought it was just bad writing and the bad pacing that ruined it. I didn't see too much pandering to the point where it was like, oh, hey, they wanted to do the Asian representation. Like, as an Asian guy, I didn't feel like, hey, they threw in Jesse just because he was Asian. If he felt more of like, okay, he's a character in this.
He was just a baby maker to them,
and it wasn't really I didn't see okay, cool. They were trying to pander to the Asian.
Yeah, but Jesse's character wasn't very great. I mean, he had a lot of potential.
I agree with that.
They didn't make him a very prominent.
You can't just say that just because
But if
he's
you're gonna
Asian,
kill
like-
off Joel, I'm sorry, but like to cut you off, but if
No,
you're gonna
go
kill
ahead.
off
Go ahead.
Joel, you introduce new characters that you would think you would like. But I do not like Lev and I do not like Jesse. I don't care if they're Asian
Okay.
like me. Like
Yeah.
I don't
But
like
that's more the
that they
story
were
thing, though.
kind of
That's not-
half-ass
that's
written.
not the
Yeah,
pandering
yeah,
part.
yeah. It's not.
It's like
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you on that. It's not. I'm not mad that LGBT themes or representation. I'm mad that the characters were just poorly written.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the
I agree with
reason
you on
why
that.
the Asian community and the LGBTQ community were mad, because they wanted to be a well-written character, not
Yes.
like a terrible written character. Yeah.
See,
no.
and that's kind of where I disagree. Like, I personally like Jesse. Jesse is, in terms of the newer characters, I think my favorite character. Because
Yeah,
as soon as I was like,
I agree with that.
I
yeah.
even said it. My wife can agree. I was like, "Yo, this guy's kind of cool." You keep playing, Jesse's kind of funny. Jesse's kind of cool. I kind of like him. And as soon as I was like, "Man, he's a good character," dead. Like as soon as that moment,
You're building
where I
up
was
a
like,
character,
"Man, he's
you
pretty
giving him
cool."
meaningless death.
Dead.
That's so true. Yeah, exactly what we mentioned before about.
So I mean,
Terrible
it's
death.
bittersweet. It's one. It's like, oh damn, you just killed the character.
I
that
wasn't
like, so
surprised though.
I'm
I knew
angry.
they're gonna kill him because look at the little development they actually gave him. It was kind of decent development, but you knew that
Right.
he was gonna die
Something
at
was
some
gonna
point.
happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
or-
kind of
or
know. It wasn't surprising.
Injured. I was like, he's
Yep.
either gonna get injured, he's gonna get bitten, something. But it's like as soon as like that little spark of, he's pretty cool. Oh,
And he's the direct character
of
swap of
foreshadowing.
Joel too. Like he was a
Yeah.
direct character swap. Like I think the original vision
Yeah.
was Joel was supposed to be with Ellie this whole time instead of Jesse. So
you
that's
know
why
what?
Jesse feels like a
Yeah.
placeholder. He doesn't. That's why he doesn't feel like too well thought out. I felt like
Yeah,
they
that's
looked
true.
at it at the Asian Crazy Rich Asian craze with a lot of Asian representation. They felt like, you know what, I want to put Asian representation in my game. And like they're still developing the game a couple years ago. It's easy just to do a character swap. Hey, let's add a character named Jesse,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
Asian, and then he has a baby with Dina and stuff like that. Let's just like make something that cool. I felt like there was so many ideas that were like pretty well thought, like cool, but it was just executed
Yeah.
weird.
And that's the thing I think was the most prevalent theme in this game. What the story writing was terrible. Well, it was bad. The pacing was horrible, and then the way that they tried to develop these characters, there was no character development, so the pacing was super off, and that's what threw off this entire game. Like Shane was saying earlier, you had points where, okay, cool, you're getting to know this character, but then you prematurely end this character and you don't get to see that development, which sucks because it's like you're leading to something, and then all of a sudden, you don't have that climactic reveal, and basically it just falls flat. And I think that has to do with poor writing and poor execution, like you're saying. So
It was
that's
overly
I agree with that
complicated.
part.
It was convoluted.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
And like you said earlier, they did it for the shock value. I think that in itself is probably the big reason. Like they did things for the shock value. Like there's those people on there that hate popular things and they think it's cool because they're super edgy and stuff like that. That's what I think they were trying to go for, and it fell flat. Like with it being with the writing being terrible and the pacing being off like that, the execution was it was kind of like a clusterfuck, and it unveiled itself along the story because, like you guys were saying, when you got to the Abby part, you're like, they didn't develop these characters well enough to care about playing these people. And one of the things when you get that turning point, you get to where Joel, I think you're talking about Joel, he died an untimely death. To me, I was okay with it because when they were in that situation, it was Tommy and Joel. They were on the lookout. Jesse was like waiting for them to show up to the next checkout point. But then all of a sudden you find out that Tommy and Joel are pinned down, and there's all these people. And all of a sudden Abby comes along, and you say that, hey, you don't like the way, because that's not Joel's character. You have to figure Joel
And Tommy too.
Joel you said he was surviving, after 20 years of being out in the field. I think he kind of let his guard down for sure.
I've heard that
because
argument too. Yeah. Let his
He
guard down.
became
because they're in that settlement now.
They're
Like,
in
he
the
went
settlement
from
now, so-
essentially trying to survive on his own to being
part of a community.
fatherly, almost, in a community.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's why he wasn't as jaded as he once was, and so that showed development in his character. He was a hard ass, and he finally found a community where he can kind of relax, but essentially chill a little more than he did.
Right.
Like you fought the good fight. Here's kind of your reward.
Exactly.
You have like a establishment.
That's
and a
his way
community.
of like. I could look at the argument. Maybe that's his way of like trying to redeem himself because of what he did against the Fireflies. That's the only way. But at the same time, like I felt like he would have been smarter in the situation to even go to those people's camp to even just like, I mean, come on, you're going to this strange person's home.
Wasn't there a blizzard going
surrounded.
on?
There was a blizzard, and they were being attacked by the.
And they're being attacked. And Joel didn't say his name. Tommy said his name.
Yeah, Tommy did.
He goes, "My name is Tommy. This is
And
my
Tommy's
brother
one of
Joel."
those ones that should be careful too. And like,
yes,
Yeah.
because Joel was like, "You guys act like you know us," and then
and then
my kneecap.
yeah, exactly. He got blown up the kneecap.
That was so brutal, dude. That was so.
Yeah.
Brutal.
You know, you guys are speaking of Joel, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on like Joel's his decision from the first game. Like, do you think he really truly made the right decision, going and saving Ellie, and pretty much risking all of humanity?
Like when you like
you think it was
I
really
think that's
worth it.
I think that's where you're trying to compare the ending between part 2 and part 1. I believe like both are not right. Like they're definitely all in the moral wrong area in a way. But at least Joel though, his was so powerful because it felt like anyone could relate to, no matter your representation of being your orientation or whatever. But his was so human, deep into human nature, where like anyone could relate to that, trying to protect your daughter, whoever, someone, a loved one, because they felt like he felt that without Ellie, the person that he loves and sees as a daughter, then life is not worth living. Like it's not worth living because I lost my real daughter once before, and then.
Don't you think that's selfish to let the whole world die for your own
people are selfish. People are selfish. I think that's.
Well, what is the right idea? Like, okay, you save one person. The whole the classic.
You save one.
Save the many and not the few or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was no guarantee that would have worked too. That's the thing. That's why he wasn't. Yeah.
At least there's some hope for saving the world. Some hope is better than nothing.
That's why Ellie got mad at him. Yeah.
And that was because
she wanted her life to mean something.
Exactly. And I do kind of like that. I do like that's one of the few story beats I really liked was, we kind of saw Ellie not as chipper as she was in the first game, and we never really okay, why she's obviously depressed because of Joel, like what happened to Joel, but even before his death, like she was already kind of depressed. Like it seemed like she was very, very depressed. And I was like, okay, does she know? Like,
because it did
tell her? Did somebody tell her? And then eventually, as you keep playing, you find out that
he told her.
He told her, and it's like, oh. And by the end of the game, when basically she's like, when she goes all out on him, and you essentially didn't give my life, meaning. And he's like, can you forgive me? And she's like, I don't think I can, but I'll try. Like that was one of the things I really, really liked. And it's like that took
every scene between
that made his death more impactful because it's like, dude, she watched him die in front of her. 2, she never got a chance to forgive him.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think all the scenes. I don't think any of us mentioned it, but I think the best part of the Last of Us Part 2 was the scenes between Joel and Ellie were awesome. When we just wanted more of that, though. I felt like it would be okay to I would accept Joel's death if they at least if we didn't have Jesse at all, if at this point, maybe Jesse would have been more of a minor character. And we actually had the original idea of what they advertised if Joel had more time. I think it would have been more impactful if Joel had more time to be with Ellie. Like at least the first half of the game, not dying at the first 2 hours.
That's a good point.
I think there was just more that they could have. I know they wanted to do it in flashbacks, and that's interesting too. But I think it would have been. I want real time interaction between trying to rebuild that relationship, even though you don't quite rebuild it, and it will cut short eventually, but not the first 2 hours of the game. So I think that's why a lot of people were mad at wanting to change the ending and stuff like that.
So to talk to your points, and I'll start with Vu's point. With Vu asking about the end of Last of Us 1, is it justified? RJ in the chat, Quirk Genius, he says the success rate was low and Ellie could have died for nothing. That is true. Right. And so going into the end of Last of Us 1, Joel was like, hey, I have to bring you to the Fireflies. Or Ellie was like, you have to bring me to the Fireflies. And he goes, okay, awesome. They're going to help me out. And then he goes, okay, I agree to this. Then he finds out that she's immune. And then all of a sudden they're on this journey. And so they get to their destination. And when they arrive, they say, hey, yes, she has the cure, but this potentially could mean that she could die. And like Jeff was saying, he already lost his daughter once before. He's not going to do it again. And so I think from a selfish human perspective, yes, that's the thing. Like he was going in there like, hey, you guys are here to save her. I was tasked to bring you because you said you can save her. I bring you all the way up here, and I basically brought her to her death sentence.
Mhm.
Like that's not cool.
You can't
And
live
I'm
with
not-
that
I
either.
wasn't-
Yeah, if she dies.
And I wasn't on board
Yeah.
with that. Like I already saw, he already saw his daughter die once before. He's not going to let this new type of daughter role that he learned to love, and go through this again. So I think he was justified in that sense. Leading into The Last of Us 2 with the story, I was talking about Shane earlier after we beat the game. I think it would have been better if we started off as Abby and then went into
Yep.
Ellie as
Let's
the
start with the
last
bad
one of
stuff
the
first.
game.
I would have
Start-
100% liked it more that
And
way.
I think if we were to play as Abby first and basically have like a cutoff point, I forgot about the timeline, but if we were to play as Abby first, then go into Ellie's story, I think a lot of people would understand where Abby was coming from. Like Jeff was
Leading
saying
up to
earlier,
killing
Bunch of-
Joel, at least.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Before revealing it.
Exactly.
That probably would have
Because-
been better. Yeah.
you see, you basically give the player the mindset and you have given them a question, and you
I
tell
think-
them, "Hey,
yeah.
do you think this
would've worked
character
better.
that you loved in the first game and this duel that you loved in the first game, were they really the
good
heroes that
guys?
you thought? Yeah, were they the good guys that you thought they
Exactly.
were?" And so it makes them kind of ponder,
Yeah.
like, "Hey, was I
Who's the
really
real
playing as
hero?
the good guys?"
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
So I-
Ellie even says it at one point too. Like Dina's like, who would have done this? And this is the line that kind of makes me tie it back to number one, like the ending. Ellie
Mhm.
says, "I don't know. Joel crossed a lot of people and pissed off a lot of people, so it's hard to say, who could have done this." And
Yes.
it goes back to like for every action, for what you know what I'm trying to say. For
every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction.
Exactly. So if
Yep.
you would start with Abby keeping that mindset, going into, okay, who is this girl? Why is she mad? You see her backstory. Oh crap! Ellie and Joel, for their actions, are they really the good guys? Make you
Yeah.
question it. If
Yeah.
they reversed it, I think the game would have been more well received. Minus the whole false advertising.
It would be
Yeah.
a little bit more accepted, I would think. I mean,
Yeah.
when you kill Joel first and then you already hate Abby right away, that's kind of a
Exactly.
very
That's the
ballsy
thing.
move to
Mhm.
do.
It's hard to be empathetic to her after feeling
Exactly. You
anger.
kind of you kind of showed
Exactly.
your eggs. You showed all your eggs in the basket already.
Yep.
We're like,
Exactly.
it's kind of like, yeah, at least delay it more and then put more scenes where you actually had Joel and Ellie. There was literally no scenes of Ellie and Joel in there, which is like,
Mhm.
if you're gonna advertise the game that we respect these characters, we love these characters, then that the fans want to see a bit more of these characters together. If they have a rift in the relationship, let's try to rebuild that a little bit to the point where like it's at least serviceable. Like, oh, like he died, but we were just getting to like the good part. They were finally trying to reconcile, and then it was too
Right.
late.
Yep.
And that would have been probably a little bit better for fans to like take in.
Yep.
Right.
I agree.
And taking story beats aside, like where the plot's kind of like, okay, like not so much questionable, like, okay, that writing is kind of crappy. I do enjoy the way the story was told in the sense of how both stories were kind of like meeting at the same point.
Mhm.
Those are some of my favorite stories. Like Crash, talking about like movie wise Crash.
Crash!
Babel.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
man.
I love those stories, how like you're kind of confused, like, okay, wait, that person's there, this person's here, how does this all connect?
Then
And
at
at
the
one
end,
point,
basically, it's a big payoff kind of thing.
exactly, I love the way stories are told like that. So when we got to play as Abby and you see all the things leading up in the background, like they're talking about, hey, these soldiers are dying, someone's out there picking off our soldiers, we know that was Dina, Ellie, and Tommy out there killing the soldiers, and then vice versa.
The dramatic
So
irony of it.
I love that. Yeah, I love that, seeing basically both sides leading up to, as soon as Abby gets to the aquarium, you're like, oh crap, this is where I left off with Ellie.
Yes.
Like
Exactly.
the stories are about to meet up. I love the way that's told, but I do think that if you swapped it, have us play as Abby first, then maybe towards the end of the game have us played as Ellie. I think that would have been definitely more well received.
Yeah, I think it would have been more impactful too. Because, as we mentioned earlier, like you have those two different stories kind of divergent, and you see them all of a sudden come into one, and you see the big payoff at the end. I think personally, if you were to play as Abby and you see like, okay, if they were to cut it off and you see Abby going into Seattle's hospital as a young girl, and then you're like, okay, cool, you save that part, and then all of a sudden you find out that's her dad as the doctor.
Yes.
And you hold that off until you kind of play through most of her story, develop her, and then you go back to Ellie. Then all of a sudden you find out that, Joel was the one that killed her dad.
That's
why basically Abby's on the hunt for Joel and leads to basically Joel's death, and then take over the story there and kind of converge at the very end as well. I think would have been better that way, because we would have got more of the character development that we were lacking for these new characters in this game. I think it would have been better off because we would have gotten to know Manny. We've gotten to know Owen a little bit.
Manny and Jesse had both the same death. It was such lazy writing. They both had the same death. They just got a headshot, and that's it. Their story ended. We don't moan for them too much. And we take Jesse's baby too. We take Jesse's baby.
Oh yeah. Right.
Okay.
And that's a
bastard.
Exactly. So to me, it kind of made it look like this. Like, not to be agenda. It's kind of like, are you saying that Jesse was just used as a baby maker at this point, and then he got and Dina got with Ellie? You kind of make it look like, and he's Asian too, so you say he's not good enough to be a father, but Ellie is, or whatever. Like I don't know. I think a lot of people got a little. It's already bad with, and it's already bad because it's not sensitive to Asians because they're already emasculated. That, in my opinion, that's low-key emasculating them because subconsciously he probably thinks Asians are kind of emasculating. And also, when you write that type of character, and then you make a joke about Ellie not liking Asian men, which I get the joke because she doesn't like men in general. That's the joke. But if you did that with like any other race, like people would be more uproar about it. But since it's kind of like socially acceptable to make fun of Asians,
I don't agree with that one. I think you're reaching, bro. You're reaching.
No, that's not reaching. That's not reaching.
Yeah.
Too much Asian bias on Jeff.
Because it's not biased. It's not biased because it's like.
I don't feel that way, and I'm Asian.
I don't feel that way.
No. Okay, to be honest, when I first saw the joke, when I first heard the joke, I wasn't offended by it. But when I saw the Asian community mad about it, I'm like, okay, I get your point. I get your point. I'm just trying to explain what they felt. Yeah.
Because if it was the same thing, like he's like, "Oh, I'm not into you." Oh, why? Because I'm black. I would laugh.
Yeah, but most people would more people would outrage about it. More people would outrage about it.
Exactly. Knowing that she's gay, like that's the joke.
Exactly. And that's the thing. That's why I would think that would have been funny too. Like if Jesse was black, and like Shane said, going into that, it's like.
But there would be more people uproared about it, though.
Out there still. I don't know. I don't know about that.
People would find that more racist than an Asian person being kind of.
I don't know about that one.
I don't know.
Like, I don't know. But
I think people who didn't play the first game would be offended. Like, oh, why I can't believe they said that, and it's like, well, if you play the first game, she's gay, so that's the joke.
Yeah, that was the joke.
If you skipped over the intro somehow and found out that she's Dina, like, all right, cool. I guess you.
I'm just trying to explain everyone's point of view, like LGBT community, Asian community. But when I first heard that joke, I didn't find it offensive. Yeah, I'm just reporting on what people were reacting to it. But and how their point was. But yeah. But since we're nearing the end, though, like I want your opinions.
I want to bring up one. Actually, I want to bring up one more point about the mainly about the Abby's father.
Yeah.
And let's see, like her anger. Because obviously Ellie is the only person in the world. Supposedly, she's the only person in the world, right? That has the cure or is immune.
Like
supposedly,
basically, yeah.
And the ironic thing is about Abby's father is that he is the only doctor who actually knows how to work on somebody and find a cure. There is no other doctor apparently in the world. He's the last one. So
that's kind of like poor writing in itself. There has to be someone else.
That's fair.
That was
like, how did they know?
That kind of made me. I might roll my eyes. I was like, okay, so it happened because like halfway through the game, I saw it.
Your dad.
Yeah, I was like,
it's just your dad. Your dad's the best dad in the world.
Yeah. Let's tie it to number one somehow.
Yeah. So that's what I thought was kind of weird. They're like kind of reaching a little too hard. Like he is the one who's nobody else in the world right now that can do this. I understand a lot of people are dead, but like there has to be some other doctors.
What about his
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't he teach other people?
What about the people that
that's true. I mean, I agree with that.
Exactly.
It's another plot hole. It's another plot hole.
Yeah, that's how I was like, okay.
Then again, it ties back into the bad writing. Bad writing ruins games.
But going back to that, because it's one of those games like I think it's why I'm gonna definitely replay it, and I'm gonna like hate the part we're playing as Abby towards the end, because that's the part where I'm like, this game is really boring. But then after that, it kind of picks up, in my opinion. But that going back to the part where it happens to be her dad, this is to me where the writing is good. It's like for every bad, there's something good, and it goes back and forth, and that's my problem with the game. Like, oh, I love this, I hate this, I love this, I hate this. Going back to Marlene, I hated Marlene in the first game. Like, she went from like, oh, cool, she's a cool Firefly. Then by the end of the game, it's like, oh yeah, Joel, kill her.
Yeah.
I love how they kind of rewrote her, so it makes the ending for number 1 that much more bittersweet, because Marlene was like, she's a child, there has to be another way, and the doctor's like, no, she has
Part
to
2
die.
showed that light of her, right? So,
Yes,
so it made you not hate her so much.
Ending.
Yeah.
Yes, and it made me to me, part 2 made number 1's ending better, not because I think 2 is a terrible game, but because it connects back to the first game in that sense, where it's like,
I agree
oh damn,
with
like
100%.
Marlene really didn't want her to die, but she knew, like, hey Joel, this is what has to happen. And I went back and rewatched that scene where Marlene is, talking to Joel, and it made it that much more heartbreaking. Like, Marlene's like, Joel, please, like, I get it, but you're going to do, and then Joel just shoots her. It's like, damn, like Marlene really did not want to do
Trying
this.
to paint Joel the bad guy more.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And it really made me like, where the Firefly's in the wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it really made me like see it that way. Even Owen's like, we were supposed to help people. Like, the Fireflies were supposed to lead people to the light. Now
you
that
the
we're
chosen
gone,
one. We're gonna throw it back to Revenge of the Sith.
literally.
You were supposed to save us all, not cause
I don't know.
all the chaos.
Yeah. Like, even Owen's another character I think, I would have liked, but we really didn't get to see much.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Owen. His character was actually kind of interesting because he was the guy that just wanted to defect. He just wanted to get away from it all.
Exactly.
He was very relatable in that aspect.
Yeah.
He just wanted to start a life with Abby and stuff like that.
Exactly. And then I feel that, like, towards the end they tried to like combine Owen and Abby. Like, okay, Owen's gone, so Abby's like, oh crap, everything I've been doing has led to where I'm at. All right, like, Owen, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
And that could have definitely been fleshed out more. Like, if
another
we see more
pointless death,
Owen
almost.
Talking. Yeah,
every death of the new characters was not just like, I guess, justifiable, but it wasn't impactful. I guess because the way you play the game, everything, but the shock value wears off later in the game because you're going through a gauntlet of enemies that you're just killing mindlessly with Ellie. So I think that's the pacing problem, and the game's a little bit too dragged on.
I mean, you played Uncharted, kill everybody.
Yeah, but Uncharted story is a lot more lighthearted, I guess.
You can't kill Sully, man.
Yeah, I mean, you kill Sully, I'm done.
Yeah. That's like, oh no, in Uncharted 5 they'll kill him in the first 2 hours,
Yeah.
Stop.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing. I hope that Naughty Dog learns from this. I hope the writing team does, because with it, I truly believe if you flip the stories, you took Abby's and you played as her first, and then you cut it off at a certain point before we found out that Joel killed Abby's dad.
Yeah,
I think it would have been a lot more. I would have been like, "Oh, okay, this gets spicy."
It would have been better, but I don't think. But I think everyone's mainly mad about the ending because we're just used to a revenge story where we actually kill the villain,
So,
and like no one's really a villain in this game. Everything's divisive.
That's so. Let me talk about the ending. We'll go into that.
I think we should be given like a player choice. There should have been 2 different endings. I mean, if you're gonna drag it on that long, you might as well give 2 different endings. Like,
yes. So with the writing, like you guys said, it was too long. I agree. It was the whole Santa Barbara part. Literally should have been Last of Us 3. That should have been Last of Us 3.
Exactly. It felt like a poor excuse of a Last of Us 3 that was shoved into the same game. Yeah. People have said that. Yeah, that's true.
Or I was talking with Shane about this. You could have ended the game where basically Shane said this first, where Ellie basically has that PTSD kind of reminiscent or like vision of Joel, and she sees that, and basically cut to black, Soprano style, and literally
screaming in the barn.
There. Exactly, and just end the game.
Loved it. Like, the game would have been honestly, the game would have been a 10 out of 10 to me right there. Like, ooh, like it would have been more of like, damn, like she didn't get her revenge. She has this happy life, but she still can't shake it. Like, she had revenge at her fingertips, and
she let it slip through her fingers,
and she can't shake it. And you just have her just screaming in the barn.
Yeah.
Like that would have been
That
Exactly. They should have ended it at the barn when she was happy with Dina and Jesse's kid, the baby that they were taking care of. And then they should have just saved all that Santa Barbara stuff to potentially
For
make
the
a
next
part
game.
3 and just
Yeah.
flesh that out better, because it would it would end on a bit of a cliffhanger, but I felt like the game was over at that point. Like I was
Yeah.
accepting
No, I did
that you lost to Abby, and then I started to sympathize for Abby more because okay, you let Ellie live twice now. And
Mhm.
then you killed a lot of her friends. She killed Joel. Okay, we're even now, like at this point, you know? And it makes sense why she lost. Like, look at how freaking Abby's built. There's no way, like, a girl like Abby is going to lose to a girl that's so small like Ellie. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You could have ended it there. Another part that you could have ended it was basically where Dina gives Ellie the ultimatum:
Mhm.
either you love, you know,
Yeah.
you put all this behind you and you suck it up and we become a family, or basically you go out and you get your revenge, and then you end it there.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I like that they ended it where they did, because it that's the one part I actually kind of liked about the story. So Shane brought it up earlier, and Vu did as well. This is a story about revenge and basically getting revenge and exacting your revenge. At the very end, we finally see, you know, throughout the story, we see Ellie basically become the villain and being portrayed as the villain.
Mhm.
And you see that cycle of violence, you know, basically perpetuating more violence kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we finally see at the very end Ellie overcoming that kind of stigma and letting it go and not kind of forgiving. The way that I saw it was basically she ended the cycle. To stop more violence basically from happening, she decided to let her go, and she finally overcame that. And I think that was a good part in Ellie's character development, because she was so hell-bent on getting revenge for Joel that she literally gave up her family, her new family. She had a good life, or a better life. Abby let her go. Abby let her live and said, "Hey, I don't ever want to see you again. You know, don't ever come near me. Live your life, and I'll live my life separately."
Yeah.
But Ellie chooses to basically forgo that and still go after him. And it was kind of brought upon just because of Tommy, because Tommy comes to where Dina and Ellie are living and is like, "You told me, you swore that you're going to get revenge when we got back to Jack's. You told
But
me
the
that."
motive
And
of Tommy was kind of like cheap writing
Tommy's the
too,
real bad
because
guy.
we didn't
Tommy's
get any development of Tommy at all in this
Nope.
game. We didn't
He's
find
kinda
any of his
one-dimensional.
like
That was kind of strange. I thought we were gonna see a lot more of him. I thought he was
Exactly,
gonna be a
right?
little bit more, not necessarily replacing Joel, but you at least would see him by your side a
at
lot
least
more.
let's get
yeah.
Tommy
I'm
to
disappointed,
shine
because
more.
Tommy was such a cool character.
Yeah, he was just like a trigger character every time, just to trigger Ellie
Yeah.
every
Yeah,
time. Like, oh,
literally.
you want to get revenge on Joel? Let's do it. And we didn't
But
like
then
we have no build
Give
up
her a
of
reason
why
to do something.
what Tommy's goal was. Like
So-
Tommy is like
That's some of the thoughts that I
Yeah.
have going into, because I think there's going to be a Last of Us 3 regardless if people like it or not.
it's sold well enough.
With it, yeah, it sold well enough. So I think you guys were on the money about that. Abby and Lev are going to be playable, kind of dynamic in Last of Us 3. To me, cut out the Santa Barbara part, start that as Last of Us 3.
Yeah.
But the way that they ended it, I was like, okay, that's fine. All right, you know, we end the cycle of violence. No more perpetuating. So then we pick up Last of Us 3 playing as Abby and Lev. But I think Tommy, the reason that you don't see Tommy becoming any sort of character development, I think he might be the bad guy in Last of Us 3, because he's going to still be so hell-bent on getting revenge for his
I
brother,
can
which
see that.
in retrospect, literally, he has the right to be. You know,
Yeah, he does.
you murdered his brother in front of his eyes, and it was done in such a harsh way that you're just like, okay, cool. It wasn't, you know, in a humane, like you beat the shit out of him.
Sounds good. And
And-
meanwhile, Ellie is looking for the Fireflies because she found out that the Fireflies were making a time machine to stop Joel from killing Medine, and then and she wants to use the time machine to stop Abby from killing Joel. So that's how it's gonna be. So we're gonna go time.
Yeah.
That sounds like better
then
canon in part 2.
And then she actually time travels to the dimension where the machines take over. So she teams up with Aloy,
and then
and her and Aloy.
and then we find out that Joel's real daughter's alive all along. I'm like, what the heck? She didn't actually die.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're nearing close to time, guys. Do you guys have any final thoughts on the subject?
Yeah.
My wife made a point too. That if they do a sequel and or DLC, the one thing I think we can all agree on is one, maybe a little bit more time with Abby to flesh her out more without the kids. Replace the kids with, are you ready? I got this. This is how you save the game. Replace the kids with more dogs.
Oh my gosh.
Naughty
Have her
dog.
just play catch with the dogs.
That'd be
If you hate
cool.
dogs, you're an animal hater. You're a bad person.
I
It's
only
kinda-
kill dogs with Molotovs.
Bro.
It's kind of
Nice.
ironic that
I stabbed them both.
the company's called Naughty Dog, but it forces us like to kill
It's
the dogs
true.
literally. So it was
Hey, 'cause
kind of
they were
weird.
Dogs are
naughty
naughty.
dogs. They were naughty
They were
dogs.
being
Yeah.
too naughty, I guess.
Exactly.
Alice was such a
In
good
whose eyes?
dog.
In whose eyes? Yeah. And that's
Alice
the
was
thing.
the best dog in the game, and it hurt when, like, I do like how like they kind of flushed it out where it's like, oh, Alice is like getting along with the kids, and then it's like, oh, Ellie killed Alice. Oh,
I honestly think the dogs got more character development than Manny and all the rest of the
They
game.
did. I cared about the dog's
Wow.
deaths more than
kinda right.
every dog I killed in the game. I felt more than Jesse and Manny. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
No, I feel
Dude,
like
it's
when they
really
yell
cool
out
when
their
you
names
killed
when
the
they die.
owner too.
Oh,
Yeah.
that hurt.
Yeah.
Yo, and they were like whimpering and stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
no.
Oh my
So
god.
sad.
The dogs
Dude.
are the
I have to
best
kill
actors.
anyways.
Yeah.
Best actors.
Yeah.
Best actors of the game.
Yeah.
The dogs
sure.
are the best actors.
Yeah.
I like cover my dog's eyes every time I took one out. I was like, I'm sorry.
I'm
I
sorry.
turned away.
If it was
You
you,
know,
I
I-
wouldn't do it. I would
Yeah.
kill all the fireflies for you.
I would purposely not look at the dogs. I would put like the spike trap or the exploding bomb and
You're
turn away.
horrible.
And all of a sudden I'd hear like a of
You're
like,
like,
Oh yeah,
Dude,
the
those are
spike
the
trap
best.
was
That's
my
favorite
bread and
weapon
butter.
is The
Yeah,
booby
like,
trap.
the
Yes.
The booby
I
trap
love that thing.
spike bomb is the best. I
Oh,
use that
it makes
all the
sense.
time.
Yep.
Because the bots are so stupid. You know they're gonna walk over there. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna come
Hey,
over here.
yeah.
Yeah, you're walking here.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it was funny.
Throw a bottle over there. What was that?
Yeah.
Reminded me of you like Metal Gear Solid 1. You might as well
Yeah.
should have let like knocking on the wall. What was that noise? Because the bots were
Oh,
not
yeah.
that much smarter
Yeah.
than the bots from Metal Gear Solid 1.
All right. Jeff,
right.
any closing thoughts?
Not much. I just hope that if they do make a part 3, that they'll flesh out the characters more. If you're trying to sway us to, empathize for them, and
Mhm.
don't make it so like complicated. I get it that part 2 was more of a kind of an art form, and I appreciate that. Like I thought it had some really good ideas. It just wasn't executed too well. Maybe because of the development issues, like we mentioned before, and that was probably why the game feels a little bit like a Frankenstein game, kind of like how the new Star Wars movies are. It just felt like so many different ideas jammed into one, and then putting what felt like a part 3 already, going to Santa Barbara and stuff like that. Just kind of like make the story a little bit more simple and flesh out the new characters they introduce, and give them some more meaningful deaths if they do die.
Agreed.
Agree.
Woo.
Agree.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much parrot everything that you guys said. I agree with a lot of it, and it's a good game, but yeah, not the best, not the worst. Just
I give it like a 7
Enjoy
out
for
of
what it is,
10.
really.
It's not a bad score.
yeah, enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yep.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it for
I-
what it is, for
so-
sure. Yeah.
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 I still
But-
stick with like listening to everything that you said. Like I agree 100% with everything you guys said. But I think looking at it as a whole, B+, a solid B+. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't think it deserves an A.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
a solid B+ is at the tops that it deserves.
And I think that's what the
Definitely not
critics were
worst thing
giving it.
ever.
I think they're
Yeah,
praising
it's-
it more on like the development issue, like the
Yeah.
attention to detail, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
But not 10 out of 10, because 10 out of 10
Not
means the
10 out of
story
10.
has to be great. And the story was
Yeah.
pretty, I guess because it was polarizing, but I don't think, even if the story just wasn't, it was a little bit of a mess. Like too many plot
Yeah.
holes we kind of mentioned. Here.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
So,
All right.
all right, cool.
Ron have
Also,
anything? You good?
Basically, like you guys said, everything wasn't a 0 out of 10. It wasn't a 10 out of 10. It was about 7.5. There were pros and
okay.
cons to it, like we already listed. One thing I do want to wrap up and reiterate: do not hate the real person because of their character. If you hate the character, and that's because the actor is doing it, or actor or actress
Did a
is
good
doing
job.
a very, very good job. And
Yeah.
do not go out and try to bash people in real life for these characters. They are fake. If you literally need to find yourself going out on Twitter and social media and basically writing these death threats, go get some help. honestly, because that is not warranted. And one of the key things to take away from it, it's okay not to like things. It's okay to verbalize that you don't like things, but do not basically hate on others for not liking things.
Yeah, on a
Right.
personal
And
level.
you
Yeah.
can literally
For it.
not agree with somebody and move on with your day. You don't have to
Right.
continue, you don't have to continue and get into an argument. You can debate, but if you're literally going out and, like I said, perpetuating death threats on people just because they don't agree with literally what you think is okay or not okay, that's not right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yep.
definitely. So
It's okay to
perspective
have
we-
your own opinion, but don't like try to
Exactly.
force it too
Force
much
it
on
on
someone
others.
else.
on everybody else.
Like as long as we
Exactly.
could
All
like
right.
accept each other's opinions for what it is and understand it.
Yeah.
I think the internet's hard at doing
All right.
that though because they're always trying to troll each other.
Yeah.
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 So let's dip out of here on that positive note. Then
Mhm.
just try not to let things get to you and just move on with your life and mind your business.
Yep.
So let's dip out and
Sounds good,
Shane,
everyone.
you want to give us your tags and
it out.
or whatever plugs you want to do and shout it out? Yep.
Yeah, sure. So I'm BatFan_916 on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, pretty much all socials. Hopefully within the next month, maybe 2 months, I'll have my Twitch channel set back up. Next game I think is going to be
Ghost of Tsushima. Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
and
Oh, nice.
Oh, heck
I'm
yeah.
gonna start my my Nintendo streams
Oh
again.
my
I have
Oh,
so
Xenoblade?
many.
I've been
I
playing
have
that
so
Oh,
too.
you
many
gonna talk about those games
games
this week?
I've played.
Let's
I want
go.
to hear about that.
In a future
So
episode,
many
we'll talk
games
about
I've
more of those games. Yeah, I've been
Heck
playing
yeah.
I want to hear
Xenoblade as
about
well.
those.
And of course, Ghost once that drops.
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Solid.
Sounds good.
All right. Jeff?
And Ron, how about you? Jeff, Ron?
I guess I'll
Sure.
go. You could find me at 350Z Time on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. And on Twitch, I've been streaming Xenoblade Chronicles as well, the dev version, which Batman showed off on the stream here. Also, if you do want to support the podcast, definitely consider, subscribing, sharing, giving a 5-star review, or if you feel extra generous, definitely consider subscribing for as little as $1 a month through anchor.fm/Hyperbolic Time Chamber Podcast, and you can see the link within the description below. And if you choose to help us out, we really appreciate it. It will encourage us to make better quality content for you guys and sustain future episodes.
Yep. Awesome. And then as far as I go, you can find me here at the social medias. This is my tag. Like Jeff said, you can follow the podcast at HTC_podcast. We are on Instagram and Twitter. We just reached a big milestone. We passed 500 downloads/plays on the podcast. So we're hosting a giveaway. So if you want to join us in that and basically have your chance to win $20 worth of gaming currency of your choice, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We have all the links posted on our Instagram to the rules and the cutoff date. So follow us there. Thursday we will be deciding a winner, and you have until the 8th, I believe, to enter. So it's like 2 more days to enter. So follow all that, and then you can earn extra entries. It's 5 entries max per person. But yeah, other than that, that's all we have to plug. Vu, we'll lead it back to you.
Did you say what they were getting in the giveaway?
Yes, $20 worth of gaming currency of your choice,
Right.
whether it be Nintendo currency for the eShop, PlayStation currency for the PlayStation Store, Microsoft currency for the Xbox Store, and Steam, I should say. Basically $20 currency, so you can participate in the Steam Summer Sale right now. So, yep.
What do they have to do again? They have to follow each
They have to-
follow.
Yeah. So I have all the
Mhm.
stuff linked on our Instagram, on the HTC_podcast Instagram. Follow us there. We have the list of rules, so that way, if you don't catch what I'm saying at the end of this podcast, literally, you can actually read the rules. But the minimum is following us on Instagram at HTC_podcast. That gives you 1 entry. If you follow us on Twitter at the same handle, literally, you get another entry and 5 entries max per person. And we will be doing the giveaway on Thursday and deciding the winner. And you have until, I believe, Tuesday at 8:59 Pacific Standard Time to enter. So, yep.
Good.
Cool.
Stuff. So yeah, with that, let's dip out of here and say bye. Have a
right.
good night, everybody. Hope everybody had a good 4th of July, and yeah. See ya.
Yeah. Peace out, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah, play the game.
Play the game.